Greetings from the fabulous Orange Hotel here in sunny Beijing, and I do mean sunny. Beijing right now is about in the mid-70s. It was about that temperature when we got here, and at nighttime it drops down to a beautiful, like, upper 60s degree weather, not even cool at all. So we're enjoying our experience being here. The reason that I started this channel, as many of my friends might know, we lived in Japan for a few years, about 13 years ago, and one of my regrets was that YouTube wasn't around at that time, and so we weren't able to I took a lot of video, but I wasn't able to really publish it and share it with my friends back home. So we're going to remedy that. So if you want to keep posted on what we're doing here in Beijing, you just subscribe down here in the corner. You'll be notified every time a new video is made. So I just want to recap just a little bit about our trip and how we got here before I forget it all. We left Chicago on a 13-hour direct flight, and we've done a lot of traveling internationally quite a bit before, so these long flights are not unusual for us. But what was unusual was at this time we were upgraded to first class, and we'd never been upgraded to first class before. So this was on United, and what we got with the first class was amazing. It was seats, they could recline back into full beds, we had screens in front of us, and they brought out a ton of food. Starting the meal service about an hour after we were in the air was nothing but one piece of food after another, with ice cream at the end. It was fantastic. In fact, it was way too much food, and there were even snacks available. There was booze. You just doesn't get any better than that, and that's going to unfortunately spoil us for flying for quite a while. Anyway, when we got to the airport, we felt pretty good. It was honestly the best international flight we've ever been because of the accommodations, and we were picked up right away by the folks at Disney English who we're going to be working for. Beijing Airport was an airport just like any other, pretty orderly, nice, seemed very modern. So we met up with our folks right away, and they had a couple drivers for us to take us to the hotel. We took off in a van, and that was our first experience out into Beijing. Now, I've been prepped for really horrible traffic. People told me the traffic here is a nightmare, that nobody respects the rules of the road, and that the lanes just don't exist. And to a certain extent, that's true. I will say, though, that based on my experience from other parts of Asia, we've been to Vietnam, and definitely like Bangkok, it wasn't quite as bad as I was prepped for. Yes, as we were coming out, the cars were really crowded, and once it started to get busy, you could see the spots where even our driver would just go right in between two folks who were in other two lanes. So the lanes really didn't exist as you were getting on and off the exit, and everybody's just a couple inches away from each other, which would have made it a little hairy if I hadn't been prepped for something much worse. So it wasn't too bad. But anyway, we got to our hotel in about 45 minutes, the lovely Orange Hotel, which is going to be our home. So up to 3 weeks we'll be here, and during that time we're going to be looking for an apartment, and Disney's putting us up here in the meantime. Then that night, immediately a couple of our Disney cohorts, ambassadors if you will, met us and took us out to eat. So we went to a place down the street, just one subway station away, called Lucy's American Diner. Not really an American diner by any stretch of the imagination, except that it happened to have American food. Then in the morning we met a representative from Disney English down in the lobby who took us out for our onboarding session. So we went, again, just one more train stop to the Disney Language Center. Now, this is one of many centers that are around the city, and in fact around China. But it was pretty impressive. It was on the 5th floor of a shopping mall. We're pretty wowed by all the theming, and the quality of the classrooms was just incredible. So it was pretty empty. The day hadn't started yet. The day doesn't really start till the middle of the afternoon when the students are out of school. So we got into a classroom that was themed, the Coral Reef had a lot of Finding Nemo theme, and sat in these tiny chairs and sat through a presentation on welcome to China, here's some things you should expect, some advice for you, and how the onboarding and training process is going to go. And then we had an insurance presentation about our health insurance, and then Mark, our leader, took us out to lunch. Mark's the guy we've been corresponding with this whole time. He took us to lunch at this really nice Chinese restaurant. It was pretty fancy, and we were served Chinese style, which we're learning is communal style. So generally the table gets one menu, and then everybody orders stuff off of it, and then everybody shares it. And all the food is brought in a little bit at a time and put on a lazy Susan in the middle of the table so that everybody can have a little bit of everything. There's really no, I'm ordering this and you're ordering that. It was really delicious food we had. Nothing really strange. There was some fried fish. There was some fish and some sauce that was really quite good. There was a salad, some vegetables, the bean paste mahjong tiles that were sweet and really tasty, that were not unlike something that we would have had in Japan, so we were pretty familiar with that. But then, like all Chinese food, we were pretty hungry after about 2 hours later. Anyway, after lunch at the restaurant, we went down to get SIM cards for our phones. Vic and I each bought phones, especially for this trip, that were unlocked. This is mine. It's a Moto X, and it's fantastic. Anyway, we got SIM cards for it. We have Chinese phone numbers, Chinese data plan. After that, we went and opened our Chinese bank accounts. Disney English made it really easy for us. They had all the paperwork pre-filled out. All we had to do was sign it, hand over our passport, and talk to the woman. And we got ATM cards. So we now have a Chinese bank account. We now have a Chinese phone. And we hadn't even been here 24 hours. So it was pretty nice. Just some initial first impressions. I want to talk about more of this later, obviously in more detail. But first of all, as I said before, the traffic really, yeah, it's not what you're used to in the United States, but it wasn't even as crowded and as busy as I thought it would be. Now, again, we're in a certain part of Beijing, and I'm sure different areas, different times of day, get a lot more crowded and hairy. But even that drive from the airport, when it started to get busy, a little lawless in some respects, but ultimately not too scary. Definitely nothing like crossing the street in Vietnam with all the bicycles and motorcycles just choking all the lanes. The streets are pretty wide where we are, and it seems to be relatively navigable. Another thing is pollution. So we had been prepped for this polluted wasteland of Beijing. We told it was dirty and it was polluted and people wearing masks and you're going to be choking. However, this is what we have been experiencing so far. Clear blue skies, really nice air, an atmosphere, again, a really good temperature. It's really quite pleasant. Now, I understand that there are probably certain times of the year where it does get more polluted, or maybe we're just here on a good week. But so far, as one of our cohorts here who's been here for 5 years has told me, he said, honestly, it's really not that bad. He said that it gets a bad rap in the media and things, but that's kind of overblown. He said, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, the pollution's been getting really much better. We shall see how that turns out. But anyway, the streets are clean, the subway's clean. The subway even had folks down there who were cleaning it, like actively cleaning it while we were down there. We're actually pretty amazed at how clean everything was. So what I want to leave you with is a little bit of our experience last night. We made kind of a rookie mistake. At about 5 p.m., after we returned from getting our bank accounts, we were pretty bombed out with jet lag, and so we laid down in bed and said, oh, we're just going to sleep for a few minutes, take a little bit of a nap, and then go out and get some dinner. And we didn't set an alarm. Anybody who's ever flown internationally and has experienced jet lag knows that's a big mistake. We woke up 6 hours later at about close to midnight, wide awake. So we decided to go out, experience a little bit of the nightlife. We found a little restaurant, we found a karaoke place. We didn't get back until 3 o'clock. I'm just going to leave you with a little bit of our experience last night. Before we do that, if you are interested in seeing more of my videos, please click that subscribe button down in the corner of the on YouTube so that you can be sure to get updated on our journeys.
Okay, so we sat down at this little stall outside. It's nighttime in Beijing. It's almost midnight, and there are a lot of these outdoor type food places, or food places that have outdoor seating, and we're at one of them. Of course, they don't have an English menu, so we're facing ourselves with this. And we're just supposed to mark on there with our marker what we want. So I think we're just going to start marking stuff.
Yes.
And see what we get. We marked up our menu with just a few random things, and then we called a guy over, a waiter. Yeah, we were mostly asking him where the water was or where the beer was, and he started looking at our menu and he was like pointing at things like, nah, you don't want that, or maybe they're out of it, but I have a feeling he meant you don't want that. So what we ended up doing after communicating a little bit was that there was a set on one of the sections of the menu. It looked like a bunch of skewered things. That instead of just marking different things, you could just, for 35, you could just get all of it. So this is what he brought out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's like a bunch of meats and things on sticks. So we'll find out what it is. After finishing our delicious meal, what we figured out was tripe, which I love stomach. Vic loves stomach. And when we were eating it, we were like, this can't be stomach, because all the stomach we've ever had is like really chewy, and this was extremely tender. I mean, we kept thinking it was like slices of pork, but you could see by the edges of it that it was stomach. It was just delicious. And we got that, we got our fish, and our little fish cakes, which were also amazing. Everything here is like really spicy, but it's really good. And then we had to finish with a salad. And of course we ordered the salad easily because it was one of the few things that were actually pictured on the menu. We could just point, salad, that was so much easier. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a good place. I'm enjoying it.